Well, I forgot to put our pretty pictures up. Anyway, here we are. It is, hey, everybody. Up there it goes. Good afternoon, good morning, good night. It is morning mostly everywhere that I know. And just 1 second. And I want to welcome Phil Treadwell to Real Estate Talk TGIF. This is episode, by the way, guys, it's episode 259. And this marks 256 weeks in a row. And what's great about that is in 4 weeks, it'll be actually 5 years. And it's just been a lot of fun doing this. And I get really excited every week to do this, especially with the people I have on. And sometimes they're friends. Sometimes I've just met them. And sometimes, and all of the time, they are absolutely phenomenal individuals. And luckily, there's a lot of those all over the country. And today we have Mr. Phil Treadwell. But before we get started, let's go to the intro video. Hit it, Nelson. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. Here we are, and yes, this is brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder, but most of all, the Modern Agent team, where we run our Modern Agent Mastery Experience every Wednesday from 9:30 to 1. It is an in-person live appointment setting schedule with role play, pitch coaching as you are on the phone. That is the Modern Agent Experience. We do that every Wednesday here in New Jersey from 9:30 to 1. So if you're interested in that, go to the modernagentexperience.com. That link will be placed on the broadcast throughout the broadcast. Thank you for coming. So here we are with Phil Treadwell. Phil, I'm so excited for you to be here. You're the founder of M1 Academy. You've been in the mortgage business for, I think, maybe about 85, 90 years. Yeah. Not just kidding. You're a mindset coach, national speaker, and all this stuff is like, it's really cool with our conversation we've had this week. And you are a new friend to the show, a new friend to me, and I appreciate that. But I have one question before we get started, Phil, and that is, this is Real Estate Talk TGIF. What does TGIF stand for?
I always remember it being, thank God it's Friday, because I remember growing up, there was Family Matters and Step by Step. There was like a whole ABC thing. So that TGIF to me was my childhood sitcoms on Friday nights.
Oh, okay. So I remember that, right? I remember that a lot because TGIF with my kids and stuff, we used to watch that all the time. So I'm just trying to fix something here real quick. Oh, here we go. And that's not working. And video, turn it around. Here we go. Anyway, yeah, absolutely. But today, what it really stands for is, thank God, it's finale. I don't know why. It's my broadcast. I can do anything I want. Hey, Phil, I introduced you, gave you some people, so just some really quick information about you. And I know you've been in the mortgage business a long time, and you've taken it to be, this great national speaker, podcaster, and you have your own academy. Talk to me about how you got to where you are today, Phil. Tell the people, give some people some background and some context to your position today.
Well, I appreciate that. Dave, thanks for having me on. You got an incredible show, and you've had a lot of people on that are good friends of mine and come highly recommended. So like you, I'm excited that we recently became friends and enjoyed our conversation we've had so far. But, my journey is one, I grew up in a small town. My dad was a builder and my mom was a teacher. So I like to say that I'm this entrepreneurship meets academia, and, right. Jumped into, college and jobs and things. And years ago, I wanted to take over my dad's business in building and in construction. And he said, you need to think long and hard before you want to do this for the next 30 or 40 years. And right. So he said, I want you to see what else is out there first. And so I thought if I took a couple of jobs, took some interviews, and then came back that, we'd go ahead and move forward with this. Well, I answered a newspaper ad that they were looking for someone with sales and management experience. I had both, and it was right. for a mortgage company. And a 30-minute conversation turned into about a 3-hour interview, or 30-minute interview turned into a 3-hour conversation, rather. And I remember him saying in that interview, that conversation, that if you decide to get in the mortgage business, you're going to look back at this conversation one day and cuss me, because once you get in this industry, it's really tough to get out of it. And I always laugh because I don't know that a lot of people raised their hand in kindergarten and said, I want to be a mortgage professional whenever I grow up.
Right,
So
right,
that's kind of
right.
how I fell into it. And fortunately, I had a really great mentor. Learned a lot of the fundamentals when at that time in the industry there was a lot of shenanigans going on, and was very, very fortunate from that respect. And was a loan officer, did was a branch manager, opened my own company, sold it to one of the they were the biggest lender in the country at the time, right around the financial crisis. I didn't want to weather that myself.
Right.
Was a top producer in several states. And then I kind of entered the, area manager, regional manager, kind of that non-producing leadership space. And around 2017 or 2018, about 3 or 4 years in, I really started struggling from a recruiting perspective when I got outside of markets in the few states that I had either originated in or I'd already had branches in. People didn't know who I was. People didn't know who my company was. And it became a situation where at the time, whenever someone reached out to you that you didn't know who they were, we Googled everybody. And so
Yes.
I decided
Right.
I need to give them something to see when they Google me. So I started blogging. I started doing some content marketing. I tried to get, featured in articles, things like that, just to kind of create some of that reputation that we now know is kind of standard from an online
Right.
perspective. And while I was doing this, I see this crazy guy screaming all over Facebook around personal branding, which was, of course, Gary Vaynerchuk. And we decided, my team and I at the time, that we would start doing some content on social media. And I owned a bunch of domains. I still own a lot of domains. It's a little bit
Me
of a,
too. It's a sick. I think it's a sickness, Phil.
and so one of the domains I owned was Mortgage Marketing Expert. And so I thought, well, let's start an Instagram page called Mortgage Marketing Expert. I didn't brand it to me. I didn't brand it to my company. And we're going to do a mortgage marketing tip of the day. And you got to think 2017, 2018 Instagram, it was, pick of the day or quote of the day or something of the day. So we were just trying to jumping on that trend. Well, after about 30 days, there was like 1,000 people that were following the page organically and really started to get traction. Well, after 90 days, frankly, I started running out of stuff to say. There was only really so many one-liners I could come up with that we didn't repeat ourselves or that just weren't any good. And so I had purchased a podcast microphone about 6 months earlier, thinking, yeah, maybe one day I'll do this podcast thing, because it was, just starting to be a trend in other industries. And I thought, what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start a podcast. And so I, reached out to some of the more influential people that I knew of in the industry and got several episodes scheduled. And I thought, I guess I need to figure out how to do a podcast, because now I have interviews scheduled. So to make a long story short, ended up really getting a lot of traction, because I looked up after 6 or 8 or 10 episodes and we kind of had the Mount Rushmore of the industry on there, and people listened. And really the plan was I was going to start a podcast to use the quotes and the tips that these guests were giving and continue to feed this Instagram page. That was really how short-sighted it was at the time. There wasn't conversations like there are now about, content repurposing and pillar content and all these other things. We just wanted to continue to get some traction. And the marketing formula that I use, that I teach even today, and that I really had in my head then, was really 3 steps. The first is, who is your audience? The second is, what problem do you solve? What value do you provide? And the third is, what's the most effective medium to provide that solution or that value to that audience? Well, my audience was mortgage professionals that I wanted to network with, collaborate with, potentially recruit. The value that I wanted to provide were tips to help them build their business. And I really felt like podcast was the right medium, because you could do different things while you were listening to a podcast. And so fast forward a few years, it created a lot of opportunities for me to network with, participate, be coached by some of the industry's elite. And it turned into some speaking engagements and other career opportunities. And less than a week, on June 1st, it'll be 5 years since we launched the podcast. And most all of the professional relationships and opportunities I've had have come either directly or indirectly from, this podcast and the creating content, really leveraging social media. And so to kind of, finish up the question and the journey of where I got now is, having not originated for 8 or 9 years, I late 2021, early 2022, really wanted to make sure that I wasn't just a talking head in the industry that was offering tips and doing coaching, but didn't understand how relevant things were on the ground. So we started a team and started originating And in 2022, when people were really just getting crushed, rates went up 0.5% a month, pretty much, all these different things having not originated for a long time, we still had a lot of success and grew very, very quickly. And through that, people were like, hey, what are you guys doing? Open up your playbook. And we started a series of workshops and did some things. But I noticed through that is just providing the tactical ammunition and that playbook, people were still struggling. And I realized that there was this mindset component to it. And people were asking for coaching. So really the punchline was I started at the end of last year, M1 Academy, and M1 stands for Mindset First. I believe mindset's the most important thing because it controls our attitude and our actions, which are the only two things we really have control over. And so what I did is I kind of took all of these experiences I had from a tactical perspective and decided that even if that was, 70 or 80% of the equation, it needed to be built on this foundation of mindset, which is where Mindset First comes from. Understanding your why, understanding what it is you're trying to accomplish, digitizing that reputation, having a unique value offer, and embracing some of those things that I'd learned from hundreds of guests and mentors that I'd had over the prior 5 years about embracing failure and understanding a lot of these things. And so we started a coaching program. We've really got kind of two models, a group and a one-on-one model, so that not only we can help people tactically, but we can help them execute, right? That effectiveness and efficiency. And that's really what I've been passionate about for a long time. I've had so many, again, coaches and mentors that have helped me along the way. I'm really passionate about the mortgage and real estate industry and what we can offer consumers just in terms of passive income and creating wealth and things. And I really want to continue to empower kind of this next wave that's entering our industry.
So, this is really a really great and interesting process that you're going through and how you got to where you are. But the question I'm going to have for you is when we talk about mindset, right? So, and we can look at today's real estate market and where this is being broadcast, the end of May 2023, just for context, right? One of the things I've always said, Phil, is that it's not a buyer's market, not a seller's market, but a realtor market. And the reason I say that is because it has a lot to do with mindset. Would you agree with that? As you just said, it does.
100%.
Right. So the recently did an event called Get Out of Your Own Way. And we had some great speakers at this event. It was a non-rep event. And the whole point was, what do you got to do to get out of your own way? So when it comes to mindset, and you've got someone in this market, a real estate agent, let's face it. I mean, within the first 5 years of a real estate agent's business, almost 90% leave the business, right? So the question I have for you is there a trigger? Is there something to help someone get out of their own way to get them going again? Because I'm going to be honest with you, Phil. I hear this every day. I talk to agents every day. Oh, I'm really busy. Now, if you've got 5 contracts you're trying to negotiate at the same time, you're really busy. But we know from the lack of inventory, not everybody's really busy, but they say they are. So talk to me about this mindset issue in today's market.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. It's also a big question, so I'll try to keep it succinct, but there's 2 or 3 things that I want to kind of hit on. The first thing that I think people need to understand is we keep ourselves busy, but a lot of times it's not productive, to your point, right? Busy is a very subjective term. And we need to understand that for most professionals in real estate and in mortgage, there's going to be 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things that are non-negotiable. You need to be doing those things on a daily basis so that you can move the needle. And those may be outbound calls. They may be some type of a content. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone's business, but everyone should know what are the couple of things that I need to do every single day to move that needle forward. Where the challenge comes in is if I told someone, hey, in the next 3 years or at the 3-year time frame from now, you're going to have a certain amount of money or a certain level in your business or the man or woman of your dreams, whatever that big goal that someone has, you're for sure going to have it in 3 years. If you do these 2 things every single day, you're going to have it. Would you commit to that? Would you do those 2 things every day? And everyone's like, well, of course I would. Well, the problem is that's what we're giving up by not doing those couple of things every day. But the reason we don't commit to that on our own is because we don't have the belief that that thing's actually going to be there? Well, the cure for belief is ironically taking action. It's one of these ironies in the industry that we don't take action because we don't have the belief we're going to get the desired result. But the only way we're going to create the belief is by taking action. And part of that in there is taking action. I say a lot that success is about consistent and persistent effort over time. Now, you have to understand that consistent means every single day or every single week or whatever that time period is. It needs to be ongoing. Where persistent comes in is you have to stay consistent whether you get results or not. Because too often we'll get a little bit of results and we stop doing that thing, or we don't get results and we stop doing that thing. It has to be consistent and persistent over time. And where a lot of people get stuck is around failure. And I said in the beginning, my mom was a teacher, so I know a little bit about academia, and I tend to hate on academia, at least formalized a lot. I'm very pro-education, but sometimes formal academia can mess us up because, growing up in school, if you failed every quiz, failed every test, even if you learned everything you got wrong, in academia, you're a quote unquote failure.
Yep.
But they say success is over here, failure's over here, and you have to decide which way you want to go. But after, again, talking to hundreds of wildly successful people, we realize success and failure are like this. You have to go through failure to get to success. You have to overcome those things because every time you fail, you get to learn something. So how does that tie into this action? It's never a better situation to do nothing than to do something, even if you fail. Because if you do nothing, nothing happens. If you do something and you get a result, cool, you got to win. If you do something and don't get a result and you fail, you still learn something that's going to help you grow. So we have to take action and embrace these failures along the way. And, the easiest metaphor to kind of explain this to people is baseball, right? If you have a 300 or 400 batting average in baseball, you're one of the greatest to ever play the game. Well, what does that mean? You fail 60% of the time, 70% of the time to be the greatest of all time. And it's a very public failure. We're in our industry, our failures typically aren't broadcast, right? You get them behind closed doors. So this concept of taking action, staying consistent and persistent, embracing failure is important because we break what I had a mentor a long time ago said, the 11th commandment is thou shalt not fooleth thyselfeth. Right? We like to lie to ourselves. We need to have some self-awareness about what's actually happening. And if we'll do that and realize we have some daily habits and some non-negotiables that we just need to do every day, that's what's going to create the productivity. That's what's going to create the effectiveness and efficiency. But we spend too much time on activities that make us feel good and aren't actually moving the needle.
100%, man. I mean, I look at it this way. And again, I look at it, we talked about failure being a necessity of life, right? So it's not you win or you fail, you win or you learn. And that's basically what you just said is you've got to go through failure to get to the success. And it's so true. And, as you're talking, I'm thinking of, okay, so the cure for belief is taking action. Success is consistent work over time, right? So when we look at action, the fear, the doubt, right, gets in people's way because, okay, well, I'm going to go take the action. And then they get stuck with, well, wait a minute, it's not going to work. Or I don't want to make this phone call because they might yell at me. Right.
Yeah.
So I would tell you, I had one of the greatest coaches in the world I worked with. And he said that he has all the technology in the world, but it's not phone avoidance technology. Right. Guy is one of the greatest coaches in the world today. But I always said that it's hard to pick up this 700-pound phone sometimes, right? So what a lot of the real estate agents do, and I'm sure the mortgage professionals at the same time, they're able to lift it, right? And then they what we call dial, which is actually pushing buttons, not dialing. But I would remember that, most people won't. And then all of a sudden, right, it starts ringing.
Yeah.
And most agents have this feeling. Voicemail, please go to voicemail. So one of the things that I do, and I make calls with the agents every day. I mean, I just finished up my calls before I came on this broadcast. And when I'm dialing and I hear it ring and I'm saying, pick up the phone, and I visualize someone that wants to talk to me on the other end. And it helps a lot. So breaking through the doubt, the fear to the action point is the biggest hurdle in my estimation. And I think a little visualization will help there. What do you think about that point?
I love that. So there's two things on that I spend a lot of time talking to people about and coaching on. Again, as a coach, most of us are most familiar with coach in a sports situation. So I use a lot of sports metaphors. A boxer trains 5,000 minutes for every 1 minute in the ring. Think about that for a second. That's absolutely incredible. So I challenge people, when you're making phone calls, how long did you prepare for that phone call? Did you practice your script? Did you say it out loud when you're driving in the car? Did you practice on coworkers? Did you spend time doing this craft that you're wanting to become good at? Right? Professional athletes train over and over before they go into the game. If you think of a sprinter, right? Before they go into a race, they stretch, they warm up, they jog. They may actually do some sprinting before they sprint in the race. So I ask people, before you make your phone calls, before you reach out to people, are you practicing that scenario? Are you getting your mind right? Are you doing the proverbial stretches that you need to do? So number one, we need to prepare. The second thing, just the overall call reluctance, even if you are prepared, that 700-pound phone, 9,000 pounds, whatever it is right. You have to break it down to a bite-size piece, right? Most real estate professionals or mortgage professionals know, here's how many calls I need to make to get a listing or to get a sale or to get right. something. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you had to make 100 phone calls and you were going to get a sale, right? As that worked out, 100 phone calls lead to listings, lead to a sale. And right. The average, let's just say that the commission or the money you made on that was $5,000. You needed to make 100 calls and you were going to make $5,000. Well, here's the best part. Every time you make a phone call, whether it's a good phone call, a bad phone call, whatever, you just made $50. The next one, you just made $50. The next one, you just made $50. And what happens is now we don't look at it as failures. We look at it as every single phone call is adding up to that $5,000 that we're going to make right. in a commission. Right. And so whatever that metric is, all of a sudden it's like, I'm not having to worry about whether this phone call is a success or not. I need to get through the phone calls. And if you've prepared, all of a sudden those reps happen, the phone calls get easier, you become more effective, and who knows, it may only take you 50 or it may only take you 25. And that's how we need to reframe it in our mind. That's why a lot of coaching programs, a lot of workshops, a lot of things will focus on the tactical things you need to do. Well, the tactics don't matter unless you go into it with the right mindset. If someone says you need to make 100 phone calls and make $5,000, but you aren't in the right mindset to understand how to get you through those 100 phone calls, then all of a sudden those tactics fall flat.
Right. And it's exactly right. If you're not in the right mindset, and that's you, the prep, it's like, okay. So two of the greats, Michael Hellickson, said that people their why's not big enough. Okay. Greg Harrelson says people are not prepared, just as we're talking. So I love the sports stories and stuff. And I want to give another two quick ones, right? So one is, what does Tom Brady do before the season starts when he was playing? He practiced. What did he do before the first game of the season? He practiced. What did he do the morning of the first playoff game? He practiced. And what did he do the morning of the Super Bowl game? He practiced. And off season, he practiced, right? The best of all time, in my opinion. I'm going to call him the GOAT, the best of all time, instead of the GOAT, because I like that better. Anyway, but here's one more example. One of my favorite baseball players of all time, actually my second to Mickey Mantle, is Derek Jeter. So Derek Jeter, his first year of professional baseball, rookie ball, whatever it was, he made 56 errors. 56 errors. And what did he do? He practiced. He wanted to quit.
That's right.
His dad wouldn't let him quit. He kept going to be one of the best all-around baseball players that we've ever seen. Now, a lot of people will argue that point. I really don't care. One of my all-time favorites. But that's the point. He practiced and practiced and practiced. And you see it today with this kid, Anthony Volpe, with the Yankees. He's just working his ass off and getting better every day. And he throws himself into it every day. Consistency is undefeated, Phil. It really is.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We underestimate how many reps it takes to get good at something. You know, I'll have people that are like, I'm really wanting to do video, but I'm struggling. Like they have the desire to. We've already gotten past what a lot of people used to say is, I don't want to do video, or I don't like doing video because I don't like how I look, or I don't like how I sound. And I've got some pretty profound, shocking news for those people. That's how you look and that's how you sound, right? And we like you anyway. That's why people are connected with you. So we've gotten past that. Now they have the desire to, but they're like, it's not good, or these things. There's 100 things you can do to get better, and they all are around doing that thing. Whenever you wish someone happy birthday, instead of sending a text, instead of sending a phone call, instead of sending a social media message, record a 30-second video for all 5 or 10 people that you're wishing happy birthday, or 3 or whatever, and send a video text message to them. Or whenever you're trying to articulate something to somebody, instead of writing a long email, send them a quick video, right? Go out and start going live on video. Whenever you're sitting having conversations with people right now, people can't see this, but I have my phone on a tripod recording myself talking, because what I can do is I can turn and repurpose this content for other things. But I have 2 cameras on me, a microphone on me. Exactly. We're all doing these things. And that's the thing, is that guys, you see people like Dave that are strong on video, that have done this every week for 5 years. Our podcast is coming up on 5 years. We haven't done it every single week, right? We've stayed consistent, but there's something to be said on that. But the reason 100%. People get good at video, the reason people get good at any type of content is the reps. I go back to Gary Vee. We were fortunate to have him on our podcast. I've gotten to meet him several times, and he says all the time, go back and look at his first YouTube videos. They were terrible. He leaves them up so that you can see them. My very first podcast episode was with Barry Habib, who's a titan in our industry. I was fortunate enough to know him a little bit at the time. And I had a second screen over here with a question. And I asked him the question. He would give great information. And then I go, fantastic. And I read another question and he would answer. And I said, fantastic. I didn't even know I used that as a segue. I didn't even know I used that phrase. And then we just started to get better at it. I'm still very far from being a great podcast host, but the point in this is you have to continue to do the reps. I've done 175 or 80 of my own podcast episodes and done probably 100 or 150 of things like this. And I still, at times, I'm like, I need to get better at this. Here's what I need to do. Guys, go do the reps. Stop making excuses. And again, take action.
Yeah, taking action is the most important thing, and we can say that forever. But you know what? People aren't. I'm going to tell you something. I don't think agents or loan officers are going to get it until they start doing it. You know, one of the commitments I make. I have a lot of commitments and a lot of ritual things that I do on a daily basis. And since when I start doing something and I've committed to it, I feel guilty if I even think about missing it. Right. One of my newest commitments, which, you know, oddly for what we're talking about, is my practice of my scripts of when I'm going to make phone calls and stuff. Because look, I still work as an active agent, and I also recruit agents. So my script needs to be on point. I need to sound good. And it's not a matter of the script. It's a matter of getting in the flow of whatever you're going to say. I can tell you that I'm a scripted agent and a scripted recruiter, but I am not using a script per se. I'm talking, right? I'm talking, and that shit comes out of my head because I'm a scripted individual. And that's how it should work. People will say, I don't like scripts. Why do I want to practice them? Because you've got to get into the flow.
That's right.
And it's to give you more confidence. As I said, Greg Harrelson said, people are not prepared. And as you said it as well, It's really, really important to do that. So as you move along in the M1 Academy, break it down as to the processes and systems you work with your clients on and how you work with that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And thanks for allowing me the opportunity.
Absolutely.
The very first thing in almost every conversation I have, because even our group coaching clients where there's a weekly group call, I do an upfront kind of goal setting call one-on-one with them. And then we have our one-on-one clients. And in every single call, pretty much, the first thing we talk about is their why. Why do you do what you do? And it's something that we continue to talk about. And there's a couple of reasons for it. Your why you do what you do is typically comes from your past. It's something that happened to you, an experience you had, something you went through, either good or bad, that really shaped not only who you are, but why you're in this industry, why you do what you do. A lot of people's go-to answers, why do you do what you do? Well, it's a lot of income opportunity, or, I am able to build my own business within a business, or a lot of these different reasons. Great. What's significant about that? Right? There's other reasons beyond that. It's typically around helping people, or, financial security, or creating wealth. Like, there's reasons we're helping people doing this. That why will not only help keep you consistent, but it also helps you create a unique value offer. And your unique value offer isn't about doing something unique that no one else can do. It's how do you take the frame of your why and articulate, here's why I do what I do, how I do what I do in a unique way. And I'll give you an example. When we went back and started a production team, these were things that we were doing. I was very passionate about investing in real estate, starting to create passive income and net worth. So we created your BREW team. And BREW was an acronym for Build Real Estate Wealth. Since it was something I was passionate about, we used that as a unique value offer. We talked about short-term and long-term rentals, and DSCR loans and fix and flips and all kinds of stuff. 70 to 80% of what we did was still normal primary residence stuff for people, but a unique value offer makes you memorable.
Yes.
So the first thing we figure out is a why. The second thing is start putting together that unique value offer. In the mortgage business, whenever someone finds out they're a loan officer, or in the mortgage industry at a cocktail party or a kid's sporting event, the first thing people ask us, hey, well, what are rates doing right now? And that's because we've not given them anything else to talk about. We've pigeonholed ourselves into this is what the industry is about. So again, out of a script, we would say, when someone said, hey, what do you do? I would say, we have a mortgage practice that helps people build real estate wealth. And they're like, interesting. How do you do that? And the script, very short, was, a lot of people think loan officers just do loans, and we do. But we understand a mortgage is one of the largest debts that most people get into. And we feel like we have a responsibility to not only help them manage that debt, but also the real estate assets attached to it, to help them achieve their short and long-term financial goals to ultimately build real estate wealth. The reason I can still spit that out is this is a script that we wrote, that we said over and over and over. So now what happens is, when we understand our why, create our unique value offer, we get into the digitizing reputation, which is another way of saying personal brand. I hesitate a lot on personal brand because they think we need a shtick or a logo, but that's the next piece. Who you are, not just what you do, right? Articulating that unique value offer. We get into the content creation. While we're doing all these things, we're also figuring out, what's that North Star? What is it ultimately you want to do? What's that goal? What's the BHAG, our big, hairy, audacious goal? And we start mapping that back and reverse engineering that to annual goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals, all the way down into daily habits. Now, daily habits are what puts us in the right mindset to do those couple of non-negotiables we talked about in the beginning, those things that are really moving our business forward. So daily habits can be, going to the gym, waking up early, listening to a podcast, spending time with your family. It can be anything mental, spiritual, physical, emotional, whatever, that are going to get our mindset in the right place to accomplish those non-negotiables. So realistically, once we've reverse engineered that and we've added those frames of, here's our why, our unique value offer, we know where we're going, we know how we're going to do it, what I want our clients to be able to do is wake up every day, very clear, knowing we've got some daily habits, we've got our non-negotiables, we've got our calendar, and all we have to do with those is stay consistent and persistent over time, and our goals are going to happen. So many real estate and mortgage professionals are so reactive. They wake up and they're not sure what to do, or they're chasing emails or phone calls. We want to map out very clearly, here's the things you need to do. We've taken all the mystery out of it. These are going to put you in the right mindset. We're going to put you in the right physical space. We're going to make sure that you're doing the things you need to do that are actually going to be productive and effective in your business, create some efficiency, and then just go do it. And all of a sudden, we realize there's all this margin in our life, both mentally and physically, that we're able to do more. That's where the efficiency comes in. But it all starts, and I hate to sound cliche because I know Simon Sinek wrote the book, Start With Why, but it starts with understanding why we do what we do and where we're going. And I say all the time, the gap between where we are and where we want to be is nothing more than a decision to do the things it takes to get there. And a decision is harder than the work. People are like, no, it's not. I've decided I do the work. I just won't do it. Then you didn't actually make the decision.
No, you didn't.
You didn't actually decide.
So this is that is one of my favorite words. And if you really think about it, I'm going to go into another story, right? So decide. What does that mean? So Phil, have you ever been to a restaurant?
Of course.
Right? You've been to a restaurant, you look at the menu. What the hell do I want tonight? Do I want the bone-in ribeye? Do I want the lasagna? Or do I want this Chilean sea bass? Well, you know what? I'm going for the bone-in ribeye. I've decided against the other things, and I've decided on the bone-in ribeye. So when it's time for dinner and the server keeps bringing out food, you're looking for your dinner, but you're not looking for anything but that bone-in ribeye. Anything else, oh shit, that's not mine. Okay. And when it's coming, it's like you get excited. I don't care if you admit it or not, you do. I do. I love food, so it's easy for me. But it's a way to think about deciding. Everything else, CIDE means kill off, and you kill off the other choices. So when you make a true decision, which is completely necessary, you're in, man. You are so in. Would you agree with that?
I love that. That's a great analogy for this whole thing, because the laser focus is really what we're trying to do with people. Right. I first want to get you physically in the right space, to get you mentally in the right space, so that you can execute at a high level. Part of the physical space is, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, making sure you're moving your body, adding some protein to your diet. Very simple things, right? Right. Then making sure you're in the mental space so that you can execute. But to your point, when those things are clicking and you've made the decision, you're not looking at the other dishes that are coming out, meaning I'm not looking at the other things I could be doing. I'm focused on the things that I've decided to do. Now, having a good coach and mentor to, in turn, on a periodic basis, help you make adjustments and dial it in and maybe, pivot a little bit is a good thing. But too often we post a couple of videos and can't figure out why the phone's not ringing. Well, because that's not what social media is about. And there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down there. But when I got in the business, just a short, quick story, that I did 4 days of classroom style training, learning a great file, learning the loan programs, learning all the stuff you needed to know. On the 5th day, I followed the manager, my mentor at the time, around to all his partners. And on Monday morning, I came in. He was standing next to a copier, making hundreds of black and white photocopied flyers. He took our letterhead, he whited out the bottom, cut some flyers out. You can see the scotch tape in the copies, put my name on it, and handed it to me. And it was a big Xerox box full of those big black binder clips full of flyers. And he said, go talk to realtors and convince them to send you business. Okay. I walked around 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day. I map quested, this is going to date me a little bit, from my apartment to the real estate offices in my town, got back at lunch, and did it again in the afternoon. And after a couple of weeks, one of the front desk ladies at a real estate office said, aren't you afraid that if you keep coming every morning and afternoon, that they're not going to want to work with you because they don't think you're doing any business? I looked her straight in the eye. I said, the same realtors here morning and afternoon, they're not doing any business either, right? So I continued to walk around and lay these flyers down for 2.5 weeks before I had any substance of a real conversation. And again, this is 2003, 2004. It was a different world. But I don't have a lot of empathy for folks that have all of these sales platforms, all of these technology. And I ask myself and ask them, And I'm not patting myself on the back. This is just what it took. Would you walk around for 8 or 9 hours a day, handing out flyers, trying to start conversations with no results, and continue to wake up every day with the same enthusiasm? I had a strong why I was trying to do what I was doing at the time. I was broke, right? I was rolling quarters for gas broke. And there's some stories around that. But my point in this is that most people don't give these things long enough. I don't care what type of sales tactic, what marketing tactic that you want to do. You just need to go do it for a while. You can't say that after a week or two or even 30 or 90 days is enough time to understand. I would go out on a limb and say, if you haven't focused on something for a good 12 months, you probably haven't given it long enough. It's the same reason they talk about in a dating relationship. You need to spend 4 seasons with someone because they're typically different at different times of the year. So is the market. Go out, pick something, and do the work. Feed your mind, feed your body, and focus.
Yeah, and I want to take that into the time of the time we're in with the market and stuff. And not that, as I said, I believe it's a realtor market. I believe it's an agent market because you make of it what it is. But like I said, I mean, feed your mind with positive energy and positive stuff. Get yourself into rituals during the day, in the morning or in the afternoon, whatever it is. Workout, have the right amount of food that you're supposed to have. Look, it's helped me grow. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm probably one of the most stubborn people in the world. And it's never fast enough for me, but I have to learn and had to learn that it's going to take time. And then weeks go by and say, okay, where have I gone from May 1 to May 26 now? What have I done in those 26 days? I know what I've done, and I know where I started today. I know I started today, the Friday before a big weekend, long weekend, is I came in here with more energy today than I did yesterday because I know that I'm not going to be making calls on Monday, just not. And I had to really bring the energy and get more than what I really thought I could get. A lot to do today, and you have to bring the energy after you make that decision. Just jump into the pool, right?
Absolutely. And I'll say one more thing about the energy side of it. Actually, 2 quick things. One's a physical thing. Whenever someone's frustrated, like I need to take a walk or I'm going to go get some air. Guys, you can't have a positive mindset when you physically feel like crap. And here's the solution. It's a very practical, simple solution. It's called oxygen. The reason going and busting out a workout or going for a walk or going outside, the reason those things work is your body is oxygenating its blood, and that blood is going to your brain, and that's releasing the feel-good hormones, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, all of that stuff. That's how you can put yourself in the right place. If you've got a bad attitude, I challenge you to go for a walk, go for a run, bust out a workout. That's the first thing. The second thing is momentum builds and creates motivation. Momentum creates motivation. And here's how. If you have daily habits, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I hate waking up early. It is not a fun thing for me. I like to stay up late. I wake up at 4:30 because for me, that's a win. Then I go to the gym. That's a win. I decide not to just walk on the treadmill, I lift. That's a win. I go home and drink a protein shake instead of a donut. I take some quiet time. I post some content. All of these things, I'm stacking wins. That momentum creates motivation. Here's why. Our brain only distinguishes between wins and losses, not how big they are. So if I'm stacking all these wins with these daily habits and I go into an appointment, even if I fell flat on my face, it's like, hey, you made your bed, even though you're going to get in it later tonight. That's a win. And you had this call that didn't go out. That's a loss. But look at all these other things you still have. That momentum will create motivation. And it's literally habit stacking. You need to stack your wins, and you can trick your mind. You can trick yourself into creating motivation just by doing those things. If something spills over in the microwave, you're like, oh, I'm going to clean up the spill. Oh, the microwave's dirty. And, let me clean the counter. And then you clean the kitchen. Next thing you know, you're painting the walls. Why is that? Because we start checking some things off. We get motivated. We get excited to do more. We can do that in our own life. And the last thing I'll say about it is the other thing that momentum creates is confidence. Confidence is not a personality trait. It's a skill that you learn, and you learn by
Absolutely.
taking
Absolutely.
action, by overcoming, by failing forward. The people that you walk around and see that have swagger, that have all this confidence, like, man, look at that guy, look at that girl. They've failed way more than you have. That's why. That's how they have it. It's not this natural thing that you're gifted with. You've got to do the reps. And we're seeing a theme here. We got to take action. You got to do the reps.
Take action. That is really it. But here's the thing. I want you guys, we talked a couple of things before about, you got to make so many contacts a day. You got to make so many calls. I want people to look at it a little differently. It is required to do. I don't care what anybody says. Well, you know what? I don't make the calls. I'm okay. Yeah, you're okay. You're doing one deal a year. That's fine. Keep doing that, right? It'll work out for you really, really well. Here's the thing. How many calls do you get to make today? How many people do you get to talk to today? Just change the words you're using. And it's the same thing. We talked about scripts earlier, right? Change those words so they sound better. Remember, ask questions, don't make statements in your scripting, but also let's understand something. How many calls do you get to make today? How many people can you get to go? We do a thing and you see it on the bottom, the Modern Agent Experience every Wednesday. And one of the things we do is we have a timer. It's 2 hours of phone calls, right? So we keep telling people, you got 40 minutes left. You got 30 minutes left. How many calls can you make in that 30 minutes? How many people do you get to talk to? It's a motivating factor and it builds momentum. And the last thing I'll say about momentum to continue going is every day you do the work in a row, it's momentum, right?
That's right.
Every day you talk to new people, it's momentum. There's 4 words: meet new people daily, right? You've got to meet new people every day. And if you do that on a daily basis, it builds momentum for your business 90 days away, 120 days away, et cetera, et cetera. And you really need to do that. And it motivates the shit out of you because, I don't want to lose a day. Give you an example. The other day, they like to put candy out in the workspace I'm at. And it's got my favorite Reese's peanut butter cup. So I had one the other day. And on Wednesday, I pulled one out. And I said to my partner, I said, what do you think? He says, how is that going to affect the momentum you've built by not eating that shit?
That's right.
And I threw it right in the garbage and I went on and I haven't touched it. And so that's really important, the momentum. I want to get to a couple of quick things. One of the things you work on as well is branding, right? Right. So branding, right? So this is really important. And I really loved what you had said the other day about knowing your purpose and your mission and getting to the point. Can you talk to that a little bit for me? Because I think this is a really important point because we've been really pounding on motivation and consistency. We'll just change it a little bit up.
Yeah. As far as when you're talking about your personal brand, or when you're talking about your why?
No, your personal branding. What is, I just want to change it up a little bit and go to this point because we had a great conversation about this the other day.
Yeah. So, the thing with personal brand is that, again, people hear a shtick, hear a logo, things like that. And the personal brand needs to be about the person, not the brand. In Texas, we have something called the godforsaken DMV. Okay. It's not on the sign, but that's how we feel about it. It's, you get in line at 5 o'clock in the morning. They open up at 8, give you a number or a time to come back later in the day, wait a couple more hours. It's a whole thing. When you're in that environment or in your frustrating situation and someone opens up social media, they open up their phone, the last thing they're thinking is, man, I hope a real estate agent or a mortgage loan officer gives me a vocabulary lesson. If they know the definition of amortization. No, that's not what they're looking to be entertained, to be engaged, to see something. We're naturally drawn to people that are like us, that we have things in common with. So part of your personal brand is sharing some of the stories, some of the things about your day and your life that you don't think are interesting. There's a phrase, there's magic in the mundane. The things that we think people don't care about are actually the things that are most relevant to creating a relationship with someone. The reason we meet someone and talk about the weather is it's the one thing we for sure have in common with that person at that time. And then it goes to my uncle's brother's dog knows, yada, yada, yada. And you start figuring out these other things you have in common. If you're not sharing anything about yourself, if you're not talking about your pets and your hobbies and the things that you do, it's called pillar content, for the record. Find some pillars in your life that you can share consistently. Those become your brand. It needs to be, yes, here's what I do, but here's who I am. And the reason I pound on this is there's a lot of people that's like, no, I'm going to work my database. I've got a bunch of referrals. Agreed. If 5 years ago I said, you need to use Dave for your realtor, he's a stud, he's going to get your house sold, he's going to find you a house, whatever the situation is, you need to use Dave. He's the man. 5 years ago, they just went and used Dave. Today, what they do, they go look Dave up on social media. They Google him. They find out what's going on there. So I don't care if you're not trying to use social media to create leads. Social media is now about social proof. Your personal brand is about social proof, and them coming and looking at your brand and profile and saying, okay, I like Dave. I see what Dave's doing. I like that. It's now solidifying referrals. We think in our mind we have to post on social media to make the phone ring. And there's 2 reasons for social media, and that's one of them. Like leads isn't one of them. This social proof concept is. The other reason is for you to engage with people. There's a phrase, who knows who I need to know? You need to be reaching out and talking to people. If you want to create more listings and more sales, essentially more leads, you need to create more conversations. And the easiest way right now to create more conversations is to engage in other people's content. If you have a post, no matter how many followers you have, no matter how viral it goes, only a certain number of people are going to see it, and you don't know that that's your intended audience. But if you go engage in someone's post, they're for sure going to see it. And the best part is if they don't know who you are or don't know you very well, if someone comments on your post, you don't know them, what's the first thing you do? You go look at their profile. Now, if you've got content on there, you've now got exposure. That A list, B list, C list. We're taking essentially strangers to acquaintances and acquaintances to friends. It's how you build relationships, guys. If you're commenting on their post in a non-salesy, non-spammy way, if you're replying their stories to the DM and you do it consistently, like the other things we're talking about, it starts conversations. Then you can take that relationship offline. You can have coffee, have lunch, and get to know people. But guys, social media is about being social. Your brand is a reputation of who you are. That's why I say digitize your reputation. It's not just your professional reputation. It's about who you are, who people know you as, and you have the power to change that narrative.
So that was probably the best description of a personal brand that I've ever heard. And it did take a couple of minutes, but it just put everything in there. You know, your social media is not, you know, how great you are in the business. It's who you are. And it's social proof, right? So if the people go to if you're a real estate agent and people, you call them up as a for sale by owner and they say, you know what, that person sounded pretty cool. Let me go check them out. And they go to Facebook or they go to Instagram and they can't tell that you're a realtor from their first glimpse. They're walking away, right? So you need to be personal and social and professional on all your channels and make sure they're consistent. So that was that's one of the reasons I asked you that question. So I wanted to hear that because I say it all the time, not as eloquently as you did, but you know, I'm more blunt as to what I'm saying. Hey man, we're running up against time. I want to just ask you one really encompassing question. So you're a real estate agent. You're a new agent. You're a stuck agent, or you're dealing in this difficult market. What would be the best advice that you could give to an agent or a loan officer in these markets? Because everybody's having some. Well, okay, I'm not gonna say everybody. Some are having some tough times. So, what would you do for a loan officer or a real estate agent to build their business today?
That's a great question. And I think it's, in my mind, it's pretty simple. First of all, there are opportunities in every single market. Some of the best years that top performers have are in, quote, down markets. And it's because they understand this concept that I'm getting ready to talk about. It's people pay for solutions to their problem. That's it. People pay for solutions to their problem. If you're not doing enough business, if you're not making enough income, it's for one of only 3 reasons. You're either simply not solving enough people's problems. 2, you aren't clear about the problem that you solve, meaning you don't for sure know what problem you solve, or you're not articulating it to other people. Or 3, people don't believe that you can solve their problem. So you need to solve more problems, be clear about the problem that you solve, and show how you solved that problem before. Guys, in today's market, people have challenges with income, with retirement, with net worth, with supply. If you can figure out uniquely tying into your why, your unique value offer, if you'll really think through what is a problem that I'm most suited to solve for people, you will do a ton of business. And it can be as simple as there's not enough supply. So I'm going to specialize into going and finding people that do want to sell their properties in a unique way and show them how selling their property, I can solve their problem, right? If you have people that want to work for a nonprofit or a church or a community type thing, they don't have a strong retirement, show them how they can create wealth and retirement through passive income or whatever with real estate. Our industry is uniquely positioned for the any man, for the any woman to create financial security and financial independence. But we focus so much on the mortgage side, features versus benefit, right? All these loan programs. And I think real estate professionals focus more on the features of the house as opposed to the benefit that it can provide. Guys, features and benefits is a real issue. No one cares what a feature is. They care how it benefits them. And if you can tell stories and show, here's how this thing solved this person's problem, and you show that to people and find that uniqueness for you, you will do more business than you know what to do with. But most people are spending time just making phone calls and just following a basic platform of what they think they should do, that they're not using the mindset piece of, how do I take these tactical things and do it in a way that's unique to me, where I can solve people's problems? And that's the end all be all, is that if loan officers and real estate agents, whether you're new or not, if you'll focus on how do I solve someone's problem, what problems do people have that I'm uniquely in a position to solve, you'll do more business than you know what to do with.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Hey, man, you know what? I want to thank you so much for being on the broadcast today. It's been a treat for me. I think it's been a great.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely welcome. I have just two things before we finish up our broadcast. And first question, it's a question, is how do I help you grow your business? How does Dave help Phil grow his business?
Man, just I'd love, come follow me on Instagram at Phil Treadwell. It's at Phil Treadwell on all the socials. Anybody that is looking for a good mindset coach that understands, hey, I know how to build my business, but I'm just not doing it at what I'm capable of for some reason, or I just need that little push, to get me over the edge. Have them come have a conversation with us. I'll do a free 30-minute one-on-one with anybody that wants to. We'll add some value, give you some tips, and then see if one of our programs is a good fit for you.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Phil, I mean, absolutely that's the best way for most agents to grow their business and most loan officers, because let's face it, I'm going to say that most of them that have been around a little while know what it takes to win in their business, but some are just not willing to do the work because their mindset's not set right.
That's right.
Mindset can equal mind share.
Right.
And just one other thing we have, I know you heard about this, and I just want to make sure that you know that it's coming your way, man.
Listen, Dave, the only reason that I came on this show was to get one of those hats. I heard that you got a hat if you came on here, so that's the only reason I did this whole thing.
I know. And everybody tells me the same thing, man. And you know what? It's a good thing I have these hats, or we wouldn't be 259 right now. But I want to thank you so much for coming on, man. I just want to let everybody know that next Friday, June 2nd, we got a very cool guy coming on. My friend Eric Sachs, who is the president and co-founder of Breakthrough Broker. And spoiler alert, also in June, we have Bill Pipes, Grant Wise. Then we also have Kevin Ward coming up in July. So we've got a great lineup coming up over the next couple of months. I look forward to seeing everybody next week, June 2nd. And Phil, again, thanks so much. Hang out for a minute as we go off. Thanks you, everybody. We'll see you next week. And have a great Memorial Day weekend. All right. Phil, you're there, right?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I was shutting my other camera off.
Oh, we're still on. We're still live. Hold on. Let me turn it off. Goodbye, everybody.